I got married 6 months ago, and you want to know what is pissing me the fuck off is how often now I am genuinely treated as secondary to my husband. And I'm tired of acting like it's not a big deal and it doesn't matter and it doesn't affect you. It's literally with everything. We go get a mortgage, he's listed as the primary mortgage holder, I'm listed as the secondary.
You have to think of a group of people as something other than human. You have to other them in order to mistreat them.
The patriarchy is a system designed around the disempowerment of women. It erased women's power from history books and hid female leaders, strategists, and geniuses.
After I came across these videos, I was watching them and I was like, oh, wow, this is why men think that we're the leaders. This is why men think we're the leaders. Exactly, this is the exact reason why men have this like air about us. Like, well, it's on us, right? It's on us to fix everything. And well, if the women is messing up, it's because of us. Whatever the case may be, it's always, to me, that's like benevolent misogyny. Just sidebar, because I heard a video the other day. I wish I do have it, but I don't feel like finding it. But it was a dude and he was talking about how when men blame women for what's going on, but in reality, it's men's fault because we're the leaders. That's also not the right answer. That's literally just benevolent misogyny. We're not the leaders. We're not the leaders. Just want to put that out there. Anytime I hear men, and I know it's easy, it's really easy for people in this space who are anti-misogyny and anti-patriarchy to fall for that trap of anytime you hear a man say it's not a woman's fault or it's not women's fault, to instantly assume that they get it. But to me, those men don't get it either. And I'm really big on, it's not about nitpicking. It's just about refining, refining your worldview and making sure that is actually accurate. So yeah, again, I don't ever like get excited when I hear men say like, yeah, man, I mean, whatever women are doing, it's the fault of men. And then I'm going, okay, yeah. And then they go, because men are the leaders. And I'm like, no, no, that's not, no, because they're not saying it in the way of like men are terrible leaders and we designated ourselves leaders. They're not saying that. They're saying we are designated leaders by nature, by God. We're ordained to be leaders. And yeah, we're messing up, and that's why women are messing up. But at the end of the day, we're the leaders. And that I totally don't agree with. I feel like that's also toxic. It's also toxic. It's just like a man that wants to pay all the bills, but he wants to do it under the guise of controlling a woman. It's like, is that really, you know what I'm saying? Like, I guess that's better than just being plain old broke misogynistic, but it's still misogynistic and it still leads to terrible outcomes, for marginalized groups of people, especially women. So anyways, I say all of that to say, this is why men think that we are leaders. This is an example, a great big example of how it is so insidious. When we talk about the insidiousness of the system that is patriarchy, this is exactly what I'm talking about.
I got married 6 months ago, and you want to know what is pissing me the fuck off is how often now I am genuinely treated as secondary to my husband. And I'm tired of acting like it's not a big deal and it doesn't matter and it doesn't affect you. It's literally with everything. We go get a mortgage, he's listed as the primary mortgage holder, I'm listed as the secondary. We get our taxes done. I just got the forms back. This is why I'm crashing out. He's listed as taxpayer, I'm listed as spouse. Even though I'm the one that reached out to the CPA, set up the appointment, has been giving him the documents, has been the one corresponding with him. He's barely talked to my husband. My husband still gets the taxpayer designation and I get the spouse designation. And the shit matters. The shit matters for how it makes you feel and how we see women and how we treat women. And can you imagine if we made men live this way? Like,
men would crash out. Men, the worst thing you could do the worst thing you could do to a man is make him feel like a woman. That's the scariest shit ever for men. Is to put men in the same positions that men put women in. If you do that, men do not know how to act.
Literally, can you imagine how they would react if they opened their mailbox every day and got letters that said, hello, Mr. Wife's first name, wife's last name? don't even get me started with the name stuff. I didn't change my last name. There are people in my personal life and just like random strangers that I interact with that refuse to acknowledge that still insist on calling me Allie, husband's last name, or Allie, my last name, husband's last name. They just straight up refuse. And I'm gonna start being mean about it. Like, because why not? Like, I'm just, or not even being mean about it, just being like, why am I the secondary?
Not being mean, being assertive. There's nothing. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If this making you feel some type of way, and it should make you feel some type of way if you know what's going on, I don't think that that's mean at all. Like I don't like. Yeah, no, that's just being assertive. You're just standing up for yourself. I don't have any problem with that. Like if a woman said that to me, I'll be like, oh my bad. Like that's again, and to me, that's how you should react in that instance. If somebody, or especially a woman, she brings up something like that, if she clocks your misogyny, don't call her sweetheart. Don't say that, oh, that's not how I meant it. Like, don't get defensive. Just go, oh, damn, that's not that. Wow. Like, I didn't even know that that's what that meant. You dig what I'm saying? And just, and then learn from that. Do not get defensive. Do not get defensive, because the only reason you would get defensive in that moment is if you actually were trying to do the thing she was accusing you of. But if a woman like clocks me for being misogynistic and it, you know what I'm saying, it's applicable, you know, it's plausible, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not about to fight you. No, you know what? No, you're right. Damn. Okay. I never thought about it in that way. Keep it pushing. And then don't do that shit anymore.
Person. You've only been talking to me, because it's everyone. It's contractors. If I'm the one who reaches out to a contractor, I'm the one who sets up time. I'm the one who's been emailing him. He comes into our home to give the estimate with me. We get the estimate back. We get the invoice. It still has my husband's name on the top. Like, it's actually shocking to me how often this keeps happening in the 6 months that I've been married. And it fucks with your psyche, and I'm going to start being mean about it, because imagine if we made men live like this. Literally.
So not only does it fuck with women's psyche, it makes them feel inferior, and it brainwashes them to think that they're less than, to think they're secondary to men. So whatever happens to them, that's what's supposed to happen to them, because you're not equal to men, right? But it also simultaneously perpetuates this idea that men are over women, and men clock that, and men go, oh yeah, okay, so that's why, like, I am the head of the household. Doesn't matter if she makes more money, you know, whatever. You're still over her because you're the man. Now, I want to clock something that was interesting in this video, and this is what I say to men all the time. Is she not the leader? Listen to what she was saying. Listen to what she was saying. She was saying she filed the taxes. She's doing all the labor. She calls the contractors. She negotiates with them. She files the taxes. She gets the paperwork together. She reaches out to the actuary, or is that what they're called? But you know, to the tax person, the tax proprietors. She does all that legwork. How is that not a leader? How is she not the leader? Because I guarantee you, I guarantee you, her husband and her didn't really have a conversation about it. She just did it because it needed to get done. And he just was like, okay, and played dumb. Like, oh, okay, yeah, I mean, yeah, we need the taxes done. Here you go. Here's my 1099. Here's my 401k, whatever. And most of the time, she got to ask a motherfucker for that. He don't even just give it to her. She still got to go to him to get the paperwork half the time. It ain't like he just get the 401k or get the 1099. Oh, here's my 1099, honey. I know you've been, it's around tax. He doesn't even offer any help whatsoever. She still has to do all the fucking labor. So yeah, this is crazy. It's so obvious that women are the leaders, that women are socialized to be the leaders, that men are socialized to be the supporters of the leaders. It's like not even funny. We're supposed to support women. In all honesty, our society would be 10,000 times better if we were the support for women versus women supporting us. If we supported women, oh my God, the society, we would be flying in bubbles, and like there would be like no accidents and no pollution, and unicorns would come back, and you know what I mean? Like it would be crazy. Like you would see all types of crazy shit, dude. Leprechauns would, you know, like come out of hiding, and fairies, and like Shrek would go back to the swamp. Like it would be wild. It'd be crazy if women were the actual leaders and men were our real role, which is to be the supporters, because we are conditioned to be supporters because men are conditioned to follow. Men are conditioned to follow. That's the point, and women are conditioned to lead. And I remember this when I was in sales, when I would work deals with clients. When I would have a man and a woman, I would go out of my way to include the woman, because oftentimes I would know, this was before. It's so funny thinking back on a lot of the things that I clocked even before I started doing any work. But I remember seeing salespeople be like, "Oh, can you buy this car? Do you need to go call your husband?" Like, and they would always like infantilize women in that way. And I would always be like, I'll be the opposite. Like my sales tactic was like, I would be like, she'd be like, "I gotta call my husband." I'd be like, you need to call your husband? Like, you can buy a car on your own, you know what I'm saying? Or whatever. They'd be like, "I need to call my dad." And it wasn't like even me, it wasn't even like that was my like genuine reaction, was like, why would you need to like call your dad to buy a car? You're 30 years old. And I would tell women straight up, I would be like, you're better at this than your father is. Like I was like, if your dad was here, he wouldn't know shit. He wouldn't know he wouldn't have done half the research you've done on this car. He wouldn't have done half the research you did on the numbers. He just would have came in and just said that he wanted to pay, $15 a month for a $50,000 car. And then when I told him that was impossible, he would have got all mad and butthurt and left and went to another dealership and paid, he would have paid the whole price for it just out of spite and lost a bunch of money. And I would literally have to tell women that all the time about how terrible men are at negotiating deals and how much better women are at negotiating deals. And I would always include women in my, again, if it was a man and a wife, I would always include the women. Always. I would predominantly talk to the women if the woman was like, because sometimes the women just wouldn't be invested. Sometimes the husband would, the man wouldn't be invested. But like, if the woman was invested, I would talk to her the majority of the time, because I understood, maybe it was my relationship, but I just understood that she is actually the one that knows the number. She knows how much money he made last year. She knows how much money. She knows the budget. She did the taxes. The same thing with this woman. Same thing with my wife. And I knew that. So I just would talk. I would predominantly talk to the women. And like I said, I clocked often how other salespeople would never talk to the wives. They would like pull the husband aside. It was weird. They would isolate the husband. It was crazy. So yeah, that's a known thing that I've seen play out in real life.
As secondary to my husband.
Same thing happened to me when I got married. I got married in 2009. I divorced in 2016. And suddenly mail started coming to our house saying Mrs., his first name, his last name. And like Allie's experience, even relatives who knew me still addressed my mail to Mrs. something. But here's another thing that really pissed me off. There were people that never gave me the time of day, relatives, friends of friends, that never called me to check in on my life, never asked me anything, never visited me, never invited me to visit them, who suddenly were interested in my life. To them, I suddenly had value. And that actually pissed me off more than the assuming I took my husband's name thing. It's just like enslavement. Even though we have the 13th Amendment, we have the civil rights laws, doesn't mean people's attitudes suddenly changed overnight. Mm-hmm. You have to create a culture that believes that this group of people should be treated like they're subhuman in order for people to allow you to treat them like they're subhuman. Because if you don't already believe that women are less than human, you won't allow people to treat women as less than human. And people think it's the other way around. We think of women as not human so that we could restrict their lives, restrict their movement. You have to think of a group of people as something other than human. You have to other them in order to mistreat them. Those people don't think we're human. The men who treat us like that, the misogynistic people, can't treat women like we are often treated.
Real quick. Also, to Allie's point,
treated?
Her video before, that isn't necessarily like individual people. That is a system. Like when your mail just shows up with your name, that's not like somebody really sat there and was like, I'm going to type out Mr. and Mrs. Like it's not like that. That's the default of the patriarchy. That's the default. The default is to otherize and other women and treat women as secondary. That's what I'm saying. This is way deeper than like all these like little personal interactions and choices that's going on in society, which is, but what I'm saying is the reason those things are happening, the reason why I would treat Therese as less than, or the reason why I would treat Allie as less than, is because I was indoctrinated into a system that at every step of the way has shown me that women are secondary every single chance it got. That's what I'm saying. That's the reality.
If you thought that we were actually human, it's not possible. So even though the laws for marriage have changed, the attitudes have largely remained the same. Many people think that women are just biding their time until they get married. So I think a lot of them just pretend to treat us like individuals, and then we get married and they're like, oh, finally, we can just treat them like the appendages that they are.
Mm-hmm.
They can erase you. See, coverture went away in the law, but it didn't go away in people's attitudes and people's minds. They still think of married people as one single unit, and that unit is the man.
Yep. Absolutely. I've witnessed that before as a husband.
The patriarchy is a system designed around the disempowerment of women. It erased women's power from history books and hid female leaders, strategists, and geniuses. And it did this on purpose so that we grew up with no map, no model, and no proof that we belong in power. And whenever history does talk about powerful women, they are always over-sexualized and their accomplishments are diminished. Then
now, real quick, and this is why I, as a black man, can relate to this so easily, because that's the exact same playbook that they run on black people. Let American white society tell it. Black history started, at slavery, and black people didn't invent anything. And, all of our culture wasn't stolen from us. And, we're not the engine that drives America and drove America for 400 some odd years. Like, let the history books tell you that. Let the history books tell you that Native Americans didn't contribute to our society. I can easily wrap, but before they were doing that to Native Americans and before they were doing that to black people, they had already perfected that on women. They already had been stealing everything that women, because black men were stealing shit from black women in Africa before we were black. I'm saying, but people on the continent of Africa was already doing that. People on the continent of Asia was already doing it. Men on the continent of Europe was already doing that. They were already stealing women's labor and slapping their name on it and reaping the benefits from it. But so as a black man, I can understand this so easily. I could relate to this so easily. I could literally just bleep out woman and put man in place of it. And I'm like, oh yeah, no, that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what's going on. And I see it every day. Every single day I see it.
Accomplishments are diminished. Then it floods the media with only two roles for women to play: the sexy object or the naive girl. Never the mastermind and never the ruler. This is by design so that as women we can only see ourselves in one of these two roles, or simply the outcast, the ugly one, or the one who's not wanted or picked. But here's how we break out of that. Actively study women in power, real ones. Learn their history. Learn about women in business and politics, women in art. Make them your role models. Refuse to shrink and actively show up as the strategists, the geniuses that I know you are, even when the world expects you to play small. Teach the next girl not to see herself as a decoration, but as a dynasty in the making. They hid our power for a reason. Now it's time to make it impossible to ignore. The patriarchy is a system designed.
Yep. Everything she just described is basically knowledge of self for women, from a, from with a female focus, a woman focus. That's it. Just knowledge of self. And know your history, know who you are, you know what I mean? Understand what women have accomplished. But the thing is that just as important as women doing that, men need to do that. Men need to look up all the contributions of women. That's the thing. Everything she just said women need to do, men need to do that shit. And men need to do it, and we needed to do it yesterday, last week, last year, last centennial. You know what I'm saying? We need to do that. It is imperative for men to understand and accept and be informed and on all the contributions that women have made. Now, for me, I don't really need the history, even though I do study it. I'm saying, but like I don't even need all of that. I can see what women are doing in real time. Again, like Ali was saying,
giving him the documents, has been the one corresponding with him. He's barely talked to my husband. No, I'm the one that reached out to the CPA, set up the appointment, has been giving him the documents, has been the one corresponding with him. He's barely talked to my husband. My husband still gets the taxpayer.
That's that's the shit that I see women doing every day. I see it in my house. I see it in my friend's house. I see it online. I see it in books. I see it in studies. I see all the things that women are doing every single fucking day. I see them showing up for the kids. You go, I'm one of the fathers that I go to the vast majority of the, like back school nights and you know what I'm saying, and all of that stuff. It's a little bit different with me and my wife because my oldest son has special needs. So sometimes we trade off, but my wife is an actual educator. You know what I mean? So she knows what to ask. And you know what I'm saying? She just, it's her, she's better at it than I am. But so I stay at home with my oldest son. But if we both can go, we both go. You know what I'm saying? If there's a meeting that, and I'm not working and I'm not busy, like have, you know what I'm saying? Like I have to be there or I don't have to be there with my oldest son. I'm going. I've been to like 90% of like every fucking thing for my child. And you notice that it's not, the majority of fathers don't show up in that way. Dads do pick kids up a lot and dads drop kids off at school. But anything in between, anything like, or after school, like after you pick them up, most of the dads aren't involved. They're not going to back to school night. They're not going on the field trips with the kids. They're not showing up on the like picnic days. I don't know what your kid, my kid had like 7 fucking, parent student picnic days or whatever. Like it don't be a lot of fathers there. Predominantly it'd be mothers. And also I saw a lot of times it wasn't just moms, it was like grandmas, aunties. Like it was crazy. So men need to start opening up their eyes and start to see the world around them. Like if you want to go back and start looking up history, that's fine. Like I'm not knocking you for that, but I also think that it's way easier to just see what the people are doing right now. Like if you were being honest, that the women in your life have done exponentially more for you than you've done for them. You would recognize that, right? And if you really thought about it, it wouldn't even be close. But if you just really were able to have that conversation with yourself, you would quickly come to the conclusion that women are actually the driving force. They're the real leaders. That society has to try. If men are the real leaders, then society wouldn't have to try this hard to convince us that we're the real leaders and to convince women that men are the true leaders. It would just naturally happen. It would just kind of be like what it's like how I look at women. It would just, it would just take care of itself. It would just be like there are roles that need to be filled and women are fulfilling them and therefore they're the leaders. It wouldn't be, I need to call men leaders. It wouldn't be, I need to say, oh, men are failing or society is failing, but that's because we're the leaders involved. Like none of that would need to be said. Society wouldn't be failing. And we were actually the leaders. And I'm saying we actually fulfilled and filled that role. That's just the reality. But instead we're running around. We would rather pacify men and try to convince men that we're the leaders on paper while simultaneously excusing the fact that men don't contribute in a material way at all.